Hello everyone. In this video we will talk about the theme of World Breastfeeding Week 2025 and the theme is Prioritize Breastfeeding and Create Sustainable Support System. So we'll start with the background. The World Breastfeeding Week was started in the year 1992 by the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, that is WABA, in collaboration with the WHO and UNICEF. The aim was to raise the awareness about the importance of breastfeeding and to encourage the communities and the health system to create a more supportive environment for the mothers. The first week of August was chosen to mark the anniversary of the 1990 Innocenti Declaration, which is a global commitment which is made by the government and the international agencies to protect and promote breastfeeding. The theme of the current year 2025 is Prioritize Breastfeeding, Create Sustainable Support System. The BPNI, that is a Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India, has adopted the global theme for 2025, but it has emphasized on the India-specific priorities and actionable steps to strengthen the breastfeeding practices and policies across the country. Prioritize breastfeeding means it's a call to action to our government system, various employers, various health agencies and services to keep breastfeeding high on the agenda. While the term create sustainable support system means we have to create an environment that is supportive to the mothers and babies over a period of time that supports the breastfeeding, and how we can create that system by giving a planned maternity leave. Apart from leave, we can have patient facilities at the workplace. We can have a training of healthcare staff so that they can support the new mothers. So, the focus in India is to support the breastfeeding in the maternity hospital and the protecting mothers from baby food industry's commercial influence. So why we are talking about supporting mothers in the hospital? As we can see in this diagram, according to the NFHS 5 data, the institutional birth is 88.6%. But the children under the age of 3 years who are breastfed within the 1 hour of birth, the number is quite less and it is only 41.8%, approximately 42%. So there are variation among all the Indian states, but we need to bridge the gap between the institutional birth and early breastfeeding so that we can have a high number of initiation of breastfeeding along with the increased institutional birth. This is a graph explaining infant, young child feeding practices, and the data is from NFHS 5. As you can see, the early initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour is only 41.8%. Exclusive breastfeeding rates for 0 to 6 months is only 63.7%. The introduction of complementary food for 6 to 8 months is 45.9%, and the minimum acceptable diet for 6 to 23 months is achieved only in 11.3% infants. So the key gaps which are highlighted by the BPNI in India are: the Government of India has launched the MAA Programme, which is based on the WHO's 10-step to successful breastfeeding. But the major gap is that the MAA Programme does not reach out to the private sector, which covers more than 40% birth, and thus there is a need for the strategies to reaching out to them. Secondly, 10 steps to successful breastfeeding provides a clear framework, but their implementation across the Indian hospital remains inconsistent and fragmented. And there is an unnecessary use of infant formula has been also reported. Other gaps identified are that most hospitals do not have a breastfeeding policy, and the breastfeeding practices in the hospitals are not monitored, and the implementation of the IMS Act is also weak. The public hospital initiatives like Laksh Initiative or the National Quality Assurance Standard, they do not consistently include all the 10 steps and the related breastfeeding indicators. And these initiatives are not universal as well. Additionally, the training on the breastfeeding support for healthcare providers is inadequate to address 10 steps. So various actions are being suggested by the BPNI, various stakeholders. For the government, the actions suggested are to strengthen the MAA implementation and issue advisories to the various private hospitals as well. Appointment of civil surgeon as an IMS Act enforcers, to train the health workers on the 10 steps and IMS Act. The actions suggested for the hospitals are to use the BPNI free tools and the resources for the hospital accreditation and register for the breast friendly hospital accreditation, that is BFHA is breastfeeding friendly hospital accreditation, that is BFHA. And hospital to establish the breastfeeding committees. For the civil societies, the actions suggested are to monitor the local hospital for the breastfeeding policies and to report the IMS Act violations via the social media and share the BPNI resources locally. So if you go to the WHO UNICEF site, the theme mentioned there is the invest in the breastfeeding, invest in the future. While the theme mentioned by the BPNI India is same as the theme which is mentioned by the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, that is prioritize breastfeeding and create a sustainable support system, as we have read earlier. So if we talk about WHO theme, it is focusing on the long-term societal and the economic benefit of breastfeeding and investment in the system. WABA is also emphasizing on the system building across multiple sectors, environmental and social sustainability. The BPNI is also implementing the same WABA theme in India, but the whole focused on the hospital practices, policies and the code enforcement. So we can say that it is a long-term vision and what to do, and here we are seeing how to achieve that, how to create sustainable system, various capacity building and social sustainability. So the theme mentioned by the WHO, that is invest in the breastfeeding, invest in the future, highlights that the investing in the breastfeeding has a long-term returns in the health, economy and the human development. And the message is the government, institution, community, they must invest now in the breastfeeding support system to reap a sustainable health and economic benefits in the future.